I first would like to welcome all of you for coming. I know that everybody has been in a difficult situation recently with the hurricane, so I just want to make sure that I let everyone know that I'm very glad to see you all here on the call. We are going to turn things over to Miss Andrea Flores. She is the Assistant Director for Regional Recruitment in our FSU Admissions Department, and she's got some slides, and then we will do questions and answers after. So I have the chat enabled. If you have any questions, just go ahead and throw those in the chat, and I will moderate those questions to her after. So at this time, I'll turn things over to you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here this evening. I'm excited to be able to share some information with you all. And yes, as Jody had mentioned, please feel free to put any questions that you have throughout the presentation. I have lots and lots of good information. So as those questions pop up, feel free to throw them in the chat. We'll go ahead and jump right in. A little bit about Florida State in general. We're located in Tallahassee, Florida. We are currently ranked in the top 20 of the best public institutions in the entire country. That's something that we're really, really proud of at Florida State. It's something that we worked really hard towards for the past few years. And two things that kind of have helped to contribute to us being able to achieve that ranking are both our retention rate as well as our student to faculty ratio. And so currently our retention rate is at a 95%. That means that students come to Florida State and they stay at Florida. There are a ton of support services available to help you as a student from the time that you are applying right now in this process, as you're considering the institution, all the way through until graduation. We want you to be successful in the classroom. We want to be able to help you academically, but we also want to help you with those professional and career development goals. We want to make sure that you have access to internships and community service and different opportunities that are going to help you to figure out exactly what it is that you want to do when you graduate from school. We're going to help you with graduate school if that's your next plan. We're going to help you find a career. And so there's lots of great ways that FSU really helps to support you. And then on top of that kind of academic and that professional and career development, we really do focus a lot on that social emotional part of your development, right? For a lot of you guys, this might be the first time that you are away from home, that you are living on your own, away from family. And so that can be a really challenging transition for a lot of students. There are a ton of programs that are built into that first year, especially on campus, to really help you find that support system, to help you find that group, really get you that family, that campus family that's going to help you, be successful in those 4 years. And that's something that we really do attribute to that retention rate. Again, students are coming to Florida State, they feel supported, they feel connected. I was the first in my family to go to college. When I came to Florida State, it was a really big move for me. I'm originally from South Florida, and so it was a really big move. I was the first one in my family to go away, and my parents were very hesitant. But once we got on campus and were able to meet with people and really see the community feeling that exists at Florida State, I feel like their worries, were kind of subdued a little bit. And they really saw that I was supported throughout the 4 years that I was a student there. And so that's something that we really do seek to offer to all of our students. In addition to that, we do have a 21-to-1 student to faculty ratio. And while that doesn't mean that every class you will take at Florida State will only have 21 students in it, what it does mean is that as a university, we have made a very conscious effort over the past few years to lower class sizes. When I was a student 10 years ago, it was not unlikely to have hundreds upon hundreds of students in one class. It makes it really difficult to have connections with your professor, to ask questions if you have those. And so we've kind of learned throughout the years that there is a benefit to having smaller class sizes. And as a university at the size of ours, right, with over 32,000 undergraduate students on our campus, we've sought to hire more faculty. We've sought to create more sections of courses to really lower that overall average number. Currently, 85% of the classes at Florida State will have 40 or less students. So again, you may have some of those larger lectures, but they are going to be fewer and far between. Being at a school the size of FSU, you're going to have lots of options. We have over 750 different clubs and organizations to be a part of. We have 18 different residence halls on our campus. We have 30 different dining locations. We are a small city. And we offer 276 different academic and professional degree programs. So there is literally something for everyone. With that being said, I do want to direct your attention to this really cool resource that we have. It's called an academic program guide. And so it's academic/guide.fsu.edu. The link is right at the top of the screen. And this is essentially going to be an A to Z list of all 276 of those majors that we offer. So as a student who's kind of looking into different programs here, kind of maybe considering what you want to study, definitely recommend checking that out. You can go onto this list, you can click on every major, you can see a full description of the program. You can see all of the mapping requirements, so all of the courses that you'll have to take in order to obtain that specific degree. I always think that's a really great way to research different programs, because a lot of schools will have similar programs, right? So if you're looking at different universities and you're interested, in biology, for example, biology programs may look very different depending on the university that you're going to. So it's always a really nice idea to see exactly what that day-to-day might look like as a biology student at FSU. So Academic Guide, this is a really great resource to check out. Now, jumping into kind of the application process, we are right in the thick of application season. We're getting ready to come up on our first deadline. And so we'll talk a little bit about the application process kind of generally. The first takeaway to know is that our application is 2 parts, okay? So filling out and submitting your application is just the first part of that process. You don't want to be submitting your application the day before a deadline. Give yourself plenty of time to be able to submit the additional items that you're going to need to submit in order to have a completed application file for us. We accept both the Common App as well as we have our own institutional application that's available on our website. We have absolutely no preference on which one you choose. It's whatever is most convenient for you. So if you're applying to additional schools that are also accepting the Common App and you already have that done, you can utilize that. If you'd rather just go directly to our website and apply that way, you can absolutely do that as well. So the key here is going to be to fill one out, to submit it, and then within about 24 to 48 hours, you're going to receive an email from us. In that email, there's going to be a unique link and password to your application status checklist. So it's going to look something like what you see on the screen. Essentially, this is a customized list of the next steps that you'll need, the next items that you'll need to submit in order to have a completed application for us. Okay, and so again, that's why you don't want to hit submit on an application the day before a deadline, because you want to get access to this to be able to submit all of those additional items. Now, this is a customized list, like I mentioned. So based on certain questions on the application, your list may look a little bit different from a friend's list, just kind of based on the things that you indicated on the application. Some of those things that could be different. The Honors College. So FSU Honors offers an honors program that is available to all students from all majors. So all 276 of those majors are eligible for honors. You would just indicate on the application that you were interested in being reviewed for the Honors College. When you mark yes to that question on the application, it's going to then prompt this checklist to have 2 supplemental short answer questions that you'll have to answer specifically for the Honors College. So those again will pop up on this checklist. Same thing goes for our CARE Summer Bridge program. So I know many of you on the call are first generation students. CARE Summer Bridge, which we'll talk about in a little bit more detail, is a wonderful program that helps support first generation students. And so if you're interested in that program, you want to look out on the application for the question that says, are you interested in CARE? You mark yes to that question, and then some additional items will populate on this checklist for you to complete in order to be reviewed specifically for CARE. Same thing goes for any of our kind of special programs. So things like music, dance, theater, film, or studio art. If you're interested in any of those programs, they require things like auditions, interviews, portfolios, stuff like that. And so all of those additional requirements will populate onto this checklist for you. For everyone, so regardless of how you answer the question, there are 4 items that you'll need to complete on this checklist. The first is going to be a self-reported transcript. We call this the SSAR or the SAR. Basically, instead of you going to your counselor and having them send us a copy of your transcript with all your classes and all of your grades, you're actually just going to create a document that has all of that information in it. So you're going to enter in every class that you've taken and every grade that you've received, excuse me, all the way from freshman year up through your senior schedule. So you're going to enter in all of that information. Definitely don't do it from memory. You want to have like a copy of your transcript with you so that you can go in and make sure, that you're remembering accurately, what you took in 9th grade, because I know 4 years ago is a long time. So make sure you have that there when you are completing it. But basically, you'll be able to go in there and report those classes and those grades. You can put, if it's a honors course or an AP course, things like that, you can indicate all of that on the SSAR. So that will be the first thing that everyone will have to submit, regardless of how you answered the application. The next piece is going to be self-reported test scores. So we need either an ACT or an SAT score. Again, no preference on which one. If you've taken one or the other, that's totally fine. If you've taken them both, you can submit both scores to us as well. We do super score both tests. And so what that means for those of you who may not be familiar, if you take the SAT 3 times, and let's say that you get your highest math score during the first attempt, but you don't get your highest reading score until the 3rd attempt, we'll actually take those 2 high scores and put them together for you. So it definitely benefits you to test more than once if you can. Again, we let you self-report those. So you do not have to pay to send those directly from College Board or to send those directly from ACT. You can just click on the item on your checklist, which you can see it kind of illustrated right here. That self-reported ACT link, you'll click there and you'll be able to enter in however many attempts you've taken at the test and what those scores were. The next item is going to be your first year essay. So again, that's your personal statement, the same one that comes from Common App. So if you utilize the personal statement on Common App, it's the same one. You don't have to do an additional essay. And then you will have a resume or a list of activities. And so the Common App has a section that has a list of activities. If you completed that, that will actually come in as a resume for you. So again, you don't need to submit an additional document. But if you don't have that, if you're applying directly to us, just submit a document of the things that you've done outside of the classroom. It can be clubs, it can be sports, it can be special programs that you've been a part of. Summer Institute, all of that can definitely be placed onto the list of activities. We just kind of want to see what you're doing outside of the classroom. Now, if you're a student who maybe has some family responsibilities and can't necessarily be part of clubs or sports or things like that, that's totally fine. At Florida State, we never want to penalize a student for things that are kind of outside of their control. And so if you work full-time, right? And so maybe you're not necessarily able to be part of a sports team or things like that. Totally cool. We just want you to share kind of how you're spending your time outside of the classroom, however that may be. So those are the 4 things that every student will need to submit on their checklist. That's the self-reported transcript, the self-reported test scores, your essay, and then your resume. And so those were the items that you'll need to have completed by the deadline day in order to be reviewed. Make it super easy. On the checklist, you'll see a little red X next to stuff that is still pending, and then you'll see a green check mark once we've received it. And then most of the items have like a hyperlink and things like that that you can click directly from there and upload all of those items. So here are our deadlines for this year. Like I mentioned, we do have an early action deadline that's available to our Florida students that is coming up on Saturday. So that deadline will be the 15th. Students who have all green check marks on that checklist will be given their decision on December 15th. And so you'll log right back onto your checklist, the same way place where you entered in all of your items, and you'll be able to see your admissions decision right there. If you're not quite ready to apply by October 15th, that is totally fine. We do have a regular decision deadline on December 1st. Those students will just have to wait a little bit longer to get a decision. We won't release those decisions until February 15th. I will say that for our purposes, I would probably not apply any later than December 1st. Definitely want to try to get that application in either by this weekend or by December 1st at the absolute latest. Our class fills pretty substantially by that point. And so it becomes really, really competitive. There's very few spots left after that. So definitely recommend December 1st kind of being the cutoff there. As we move, yes, you have a question?
Quick question. So the deadline for early action is October 15th. Is that by 11:59 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, that's a great question. So that will be by Eastern time. And then I do have a direct message here. Let me see 1 second. If we apply for honors, does it need to be submitted on the 15th too, or is the December deadline okay for the early action? This is a great question. So a lot of our special programs, so honors, care, and then a lot of the like music programs and things like that are giving students a little bit later to submit all of their items. And so as long as you have, if your honors is the specific question that I have. So as long as you are submitting all of your items outside of honors, right? So the things that I just talked about, the transcript, the test scores, all of that, we'll review you for general admission, and you could receive your decision for general admission on December 15th. Honors is not going to release their decisions until February 15th. So with this group. So if you apply early to early action, you can hold off on the honors stuff. You don't need to submit all of that stuff by this weekend. I think they have a December 1st deadline for those items. you'll just have to, the decisions will be split. So you'll see your decision to the university and then you'll see your honors decision.
Andrea, since we stopped really quick for a question, I did have one in the chat about the last slide. Someone would like to know if they fill out the list of activities on the Common App, can they still attach a separate resume?
Yes, absolutely. So if you have additional items that you want to submit that you didn't include on the list of activities, you can absolutely submit a separate document. Great question. All right. So let's talk a little bit about kind of what we look for in our applications. This is a big question that we get. And kind of how we frame things. We review applications holistically. And basically all that means is that there's no one element that's going to guarantee a student admission to our university. There's also nothing that we're really looking for in particular, right? We're looking for the whole picture when it comes to the information that you're providing to us. So as a university, if you look at our university seal, there are these 3 beautiful torches on the seal. They stand for Virus, Artis, and Morris, which are the Latin terms for strength, skill, and character. And so we kind of break down our evaluation of everybody's application utilizing these sections, okay? So this first section, this strength section, is where your academic stuff plays in, right? We're gonna look at things like GPA. We're gonna look at things like test scores. But we're also going to do a deeper dive into the types of courses that you're taking, right? Are you challenging yourself academically? Are you taking some of those more challenging courses? We have information on everybody's high school. So when you're applying to us, we're looking at things in the context of your specific high school, right? Does your school offer AP classes? Does it offer a dual enrollment program? You know, what are the different things that are offered to you as a student? Again, we never want to penalize somebody for something that's just not available to them, right? We know that every school offers things differently. And different amounts of classes and things like that. And so we just want to make sure that you are taking advantage of the specific coursework that is offered at your school and really kind of challenging yourself academically. For us, it really is a balance between those more difficult classes and also good grades. And that balance is going to look different for every single student. Okay, so we don't go in, we don't count AP classes or say that you have to have this many advanced courses, because again, it's going to depend on the student. Right? If you're a really strong math and science student, you might find that you want to go to that AP level in math and science, but maybe adding an AP English class is just going to be too much for you, and it's going to be too hard to balance that. That's okay. It's totally, we look at all of that. We're kind of considering your academics in the context of all of the other information that you're giving to us. Okay? We want you guys to enjoy your time in high school. We don't want you to be stressing out trying to take 7 AP classes. And so figure out where that balance is for you. You know, where can you maintain those good grades and then still challenge yourself? And that's kind of where we want you to be. We do look at senior schedule. That's another important piece. I know this is the beginning of senior year. And so a lot of students don't have grades necessarily yet. But what you're providing to us is your senior schedule. And so we want to make sure that you are kind of continuing on with that rigorous coursework into senior year, that again, you're continuing to challenge yourself. Even though you will have your decision in December, we still want you to finish out the year strong. And so we're still going to look for your grades. We're going to have you submit your first semester grades. We're going to have you submit final grades. And then we're going to consider all of that even after the decisions are processed. So keep all that in mind. As far as test scores go, we know that students have had a lot of difficulty accessing tests. And I know that we mentioned earlier, I know a lot of you have been impacted by the hurricane. And so if there is a reason why you haven't been able to test related to Hurricane Ian, some of you may have seen on your checklist a new little item pop up that says like hurricane disruption. And so it's basically a form where you can tell us, hey, I wasn't able to take the test that I had planned, or, you know, if there were any other issues with that, please reach out to us. Please let us know so that we can kind of work with you all, because we know that there are circumstances there, right? So there's the strength piece. We look at that. That's kind of where your academics fall into play. The next piece that we look at is going to be your skill piece, and that's going to come from your resume, right? Or your, you know, kind of involvement outside of the classroom. So again, like I mentioned earlier, this can be clubs, it can be sports, it can be participation in, you know, community service. It can be a job, it can be family responsibilities. So again, we just want you to share kind of how you're spending your time outside of the classroom. And then the third piece is your character piece. This comes from the essay. And we purposely leave the essay pretty vague, right? I get a lot of students that are like, well, what do you want me to write about in the essay? I tell students that I want to hear something or learn something about you that I wouldn't know by looking at any other piece of the application. Okay. And that, again, is going to be different for every single student, right? What do you feel like what an admissions counselor should think about or should consider when we're looking at your application? All right. So you don't want to use the essay necessarily to repeat or reiterate the activities that you're doing or stuff like that. The essay should really be a place where you can share some sort of new information. So some students use it as a place to share their goals or kind of why they want to come to Florida State. Other students use it as a place to talk about an obstacle that they've overcome in their life and or important lessons that they've learned. Always make it about you. Always make sure that the essay is focused on you as a person and why it's important for the college to know this information. We put all of that together when we are coming up with our decisions. And so a lot of times when I get students, they'll sometimes look at our academic profile, which is all super, super high. And they're like, well, I don't fall anywhere near that when it comes to my GPA, or, my test scores aren't quite where they need to be. It's totally fine, right? What I tell students is really focus on those other elements of the application. Make sure you have a very strong essay, make sure, your activities section is really strong, and that's still a competitive application for us. So I always like to talk about that before we show this, because this tends to freak everybody out. These are the middle 50% averages of the students who were admitted from last year. Nothing on this screen is a requirement for admission. Okay, so we do not have minimums in terms of GPAs or test scores that are required to be offered admission to Florida State. Like I mentioned in the last slide, GPA and test scores are two elements of the review. They are not the only things that we look at. Okay. And we also look at things kind of in the context of your school and of your environment. And so those are all factors that we consider when we're looking at your application. You can see that between fall and summer term, it's slightly less competitive. This is just because less students want to start in the summer than start in the fall. For logistical purposes, this summer term that you're applying to is only 6 weeks long. So it's not the entire summer. You'll typically come to Tallahassee at the end of June. You'll spend 6 weeks with us and you'll take 2 classes. And then you'll go home and you'll come back in the fall with everybody else. It's not probationary. You're not having to reapply or anything like that. You're just starting 6 weeks earlier. Okay, so that is the main difference between summer and fall. We will ask you on your application to indicate whether you want to be considered for summer or fall, and we will only look at students for the term in which they apply. So if you apply for summer, we're only going to look at you for summer. If you apply for fall, we're only going to look at you for fall. The CARE information, which we'll talk about the CARE Summer Bridge program. But again, as I mentioned earlier, this is a program that helps support our first generation students. And so you can see their academic profile is slightly less competitive. So they do have minimums, which we'll talk about in a second, in terms of their program specifically. But again, I put that on there for some perspective, because we definitely want our first generation students to feel like they're going to be competitive in that academic area. The GPA is a recalculated GPA, so it's going to look a little bit different than what you might see on your transcript. At FSU, we only look at core classes. So that's going to be your English, your math, your natural sciences like biology and chemistry, your social sciences like Gov and history and things like that, and then your world language courses. And we give you additional weight for any advanced coursework that you're taking. So if you're taking honors classes, pre-AP, pre-IB, AP, IB, ACE, dual enrollment, any of those classes, we will give you additional weight onto your GPA. The test scores, as I mentioned, are super scored. So if you test more than once, we will take your highest sub scores there. Let me see, I think I have a couple questions. What term should I apply for if I'm attending a technical school and I want to get my certificate or license before attending? So basically, if you're applying right now, if you're a senior that's getting ready to graduate as part of the class of 2023, the applications that we're accepting now, so the deadlines that I shared earlier, are going to be to start in the summer of 2023 or in the fall of 2023. If your plan is not to start at that time and you want to kind of maybe take a year to do a technical program or to do something else, you wouldn't apply right now. You would apply whenever that application opened up. And so you're going to do a technical program for a year. You're not going to start with us until 2024, for example. You would wait till this time next year and then you would apply.
And you stopped really quick. We have another question in the main chat. Does sending scores after you submit the application affect your chance of getting in?
No, so we actually will allow, I think that's the next slide. Yeah. So once we need at least one set of scores on file by the deadline day. After that, you can update the scores that you have all the way until December 1st. So if you're applying to our early action deadline this weekend, we just need one set of scores by then, and then you can submit new scores or update those scores all the way until December 1st. If you're going to wait till the December 1st deadline, you can submit new scores until January 1st. And again, for those of you that may have been taking, I know there was an SAT the weekend of the hurricane. It was on October 1st. And so if that was going to be your first SAT and you don't have any tests and you're still ready to apply to the October 15th deadline, let us know. I'm going to put my email at the end of this presentation. And so please send me an email and let me know that. We want to be able to review you for that deadline. I think the makeup date is the 15th for that SAT. Or later this month sometime. So again, if there's hurricane issues, please let us know. We want to be able to work with you there. Is that the same with the CARE program until December, or is the CARE program due by this Saturday? So CARE is going to actually admit students in every single deadline. So if you apply by this Saturday, they're going to review you for this Saturday. If you wait and apply by December 1st, that's totally fine. They're going to review you on December 1st. Again, just like with the regular admission, I probably wouldn't apply past December 1st. Yes, Samantha.
So I just wanted to clarify for students who are applying for Common App, and you may have already spoken to this, but I just wanted a little bit of clarification. If students are applying via Common App, it can take up to 48 hours to get access to the status check. And then once they have the status check, they have to link their SSAR, upload their essay. So essentially, with the deadline being on Saturday, if they're applying by Common App, they should probably submit that application today, correct?
Yeah, definitely. We're doing the upload. So that upload usually takes about 48 hours. We're doing it more often now because we know that a lot of students are trying to get their information in. And so even if you submit tomorrow, the chances are that you'll be able to get that email and get everything rolling by Saturday. But I would try, like within the next 24 hours or so, be submitting that application.
Okay, and then they'll have until midnight on Saturday to do that. Okay, thank you.
Let's see. Would you suggest talking about how an activity that is on our resume has helped us grow as a person in our essay? Yeah, I think that's a great question, a great topic. So anything that you've learned or something that's kind of made you into, the person that you are today, I think is a wonderful essay topic, because I think that's going to show us how you're going to contribute to our campus community and kind of what you're going to bring to FSU. And I think that's a great way to kind of get to know you. All right. I think that's all the questions that we see so far. Jody, anything else on your end? All right, so let's talk a little bit about Summer Bridge. I've been alluding to this for a while now. FSU has a wonderful department called the Center for Academic Retention and Enhancement, which is a very long name, so we call it CARE. There are lots and lots of different services available for students through CARE. Summer Bridge is just one of those things. And so Summer Bridge is a program that is in the summertime. So again, you'll come to FSU during that 6-week summer semester that I talked about. It is a fully paid experience. And so CARE will cover your courses, they will cover your housing, your meals, insurance if you need it. They'll cover everything that you need to be able to come. You're going to get that social, that campus connection, right? You're going to get to meet the other CARE students. You're going to get the academic acclimation. You're going to take those 2 classes. You're going to kind of get started on your college coursework. You're going to get some college life skill development to really make sure, again, that you're successful and that you get help with that transition from high school into college. And then you're going to meet faculty, you're going to meet staff, you're going to meet administrators, all of the people that, again, are going to be part of your support system to be able to help you succeed. Now, in order to be eligible for the CARE Summer Bridge program, a student has to be first gen and Pell eligible. So first generation, what it means at Florida State is that your mom or dad, either adoptive or biological, cannot have a bachelor's degree or higher. So that's the 4-year degree or higher. If your parent has a technical degree, if they have an associate's degree, if they started college but never finished college, you are still considered first generation. The other question we get a lot, if you have a sibling who is in college, you are still considered first generation. So your sibling is the same generation as you. So as long as your parents do not have those degrees, then you are still eligible to be considered a first generation student. Pell eligibility is based on your income, on your parents' income. The way that you determine whether you are Pell eligible is by completing something called the FAFSA. I'm sure you guys will hear about this a whole lot. FAFSA is a super important document to get assistance in paying for college. And so you'll complete the FAFSA document that becomes available on October 1st of every year. So that's a yearly thing that you'll have to submit. But you'll submit that and then you'll be able to determine there if you are Pell eligible. So you have to be first gen and you have to be Pell eligible in order to be considered for the summer bridge program. Attendance is required from June 17th to August 5th. And so that's the term, the 6-week summer term. Have to be in attendance during that time. And then again, it is summer funded. So there's a grant available. It is completely covered. After that, you will be eligible for $2,500 every year. That is that CARE grant. So being part of that program, you'll be eligible for that renewable scholarship every single year on top of your Pell grant and all of the additional scholarships and funding that are available there. CARE does have some minimums. So I know I shared the averages of the students who were offered admission into CARE. The minimum for CARE is at least a 3.0 weighted GPA, either a 19 on your ACT or a 990 on your SAT. If you are close, but you're not quite there, please still apply. Again, we have lots of ways that we can help work with students. And so those are kind of those benchmarks that we want you to have. But if you're close or you're meeting one, but not another one, again, please reach out to us and we can try to work with you. But this is CARE Summer Bridge. Again, if you want to be considered for this, you want to look out for the question on the application that asks if you're interested in that. You're going to mark yes to that. And then once you get to your checklist, you're going to have some additional items that you'll need to complete for CARE. Those items are 2 short answer questions. So it's a 300-word maximum on both of those. And those are specific questions that they're asking you that they want answers to. And then you'll have to complete 2 FAFSA documents. So you'll have to complete the 22-23 FAFSA and the 23-24 FAFSA, which if you go on the FAFSA website are the 2 that are available right now. If you are not one, so we get a lot of students who we would love to work with through the CARE Summer Bridge program, or that students that are interested in CARE Summer Bridge, but maybe the students are not Pell eligible, right? Or maybe they're not first generation, maybe they're second generation students, but they're still limited income. And so they could really benefit from the services that CARE has to offer, the support that CARE has to offer, but maybe aren't quite eligible for CARE Summer Bridge. So this past year, we instituted a new program called the Quest Scholars Program. This is kind of designed for those types of students, right? So students who may not necessarily meet the requirements for CARE Summer Bridge, but are still eligible for some of that support, the social connections on campus, the leadership development opportunities, things like that, that the CARE program has to offer. You cannot apply for the Quest Scholars Program. It's something that we consider students for. And so we'll kind of look at applications and determine what students would be offered the Quest Scholars Program. There's a scholarship associated with that. It's $1,000 as opposed to the $2,500 for the CARE Summer Bridge. But again, that is a renewable scholarship that you'll get every single year. You have a little bit more flexibility with Quest. You can either choose to start in the summer or in the fall. And then again, you'll have that academic year scholarship. You don't have to do the Summer Bridge program. You don't have to come to campus over the summer if you don't want to. And so got a little bit more flexibility there. But it still is designed for those students who come from, under-resourced areas and who maybe could use that little bit of extra support. A little bit about finances here. You can see a full breakdown of our cost of attendance. And so this is the cost of attendance for a full academic year. So it's going to be fall and spring semester. It does not include summer courses. So keep that in mind. You can see the breakdown here between in-state and out-of-state students. So there definitely is a benefit to proving that you've lived in Florida for at least a year. Definitely more cost effective. What I tell students is that the tuition and fees is really the set cost on this list, right? So this $5,666 is the fees that you're going to pay to the university to be a student at FSU. Everything else on this list is dependent upon choices that you make. right? So you can choose to live in the most expensive housing, or you can choose to live in the more affordable ones. You can choose to live on campus. You can choose to live off campus. When it comes to meals, you can choose different levels of meal plans and things like that. And so all the other numbers on this list are very flexible depending on your choices. So keep that in mind. Those of you that might be eligible for the Bright Futures Scholarship know that the 100% award will cover this $5,666. And so that will cover that. And then you would be responsible for your housing and meals. We do automatically consider students for scholarships when they apply to the Office of Admissions. And so there's going to be those merit-based scholarships, which are solely based on things like GPA and test scores. We tend to offer those to the top third of the students that are admitted to Florida State. And we let you know on decision day whether you were offered those scholarships. So that's an automatic process. There's nothing additional that you have to do there. As I mentioned earlier, the FAFSA is kind of that first place that you want to start if you are looking for assistance in getting paid, funding for school. You'll fill out the FAFSA every October 1st with some information on you and your parents' income, and you'll be able to see whether you're eligible for anything through there. The main grant that comes from the FAFSA is the Pell Grant, which I mentioned for the CARE program. That's about $6,800, the full Pell Grant. So you can see that will cover your whole tuition and then some, which is really nice. A little bit about housing. Like I mentioned earlier, we have 18 different residence halls on our campus. You're not required to live on campus as a freshman, but it's something that we definitely recommend. About 85% of our first year students who choose to live on campus. So it's definitely a residential community at Florida State. All of our first year residence halls are suite style, meaning that you will share a room with one other student, and then the two of you will share your bathroom with the people next door. You have 2 rooms and then a bathroom in between. You do have to be an admitted student to sign a contract for housing. So again, another benefit of applying early and getting your decision early is that you will be able to sign your housing contract if that's something that you're interested in doing. We do anticipate, even with the early action deadline this year, that housing will not open their contracts until late February. So whether you're applying to October 15th or whether you're applying to December 1st, you should still have the same chance to get your spot in one of the residence halls. Dining options. So you will absolutely never go hungry at Florida State. Lots and lots of options for food. We have 2 all you care to eat dining halls. So they are going to be kind of buffet style. They serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner on a rotating menu 7 days a week. So that is always available to you. In addition to that, we do have 30 other dining locations on campus, things like Starbucks, Chick-fil-A, all your favorites from home, all those types of things spread out throughout campus as well. We do offer meal plans, so you can purchase that to make that a little bit easier for you. But again, it is optional, so you can choose to do that or not. Even if you do live on campus, you have access to kitchens in all of your residence halls. And so if you wanted to cook food for yourself or purchase food and do it that way, you can absolutely do that as well. If you do have any dietary restrictions or allergies, we have a fully licensed nutritionist on campus who can work with you to make sure that the food that you are eating is safe. Both of the dining halls have areas that are free of the top allergens and things like that as well. So we want to make sure that we can accommodate those things if we need to. Last but not least, come and see us. We do tours year round at Florida State. Visit.fsu.edu is the website where you can come and sign up for those tours. That's how I made my decision of where I wanted to go to college. I actually went and set foot on campuses. I think Florida State is a phenomenal place, and it's just got a special appeal to it when you're there on campus. But that goes for really any school that you're looking into. I definitely recommend trying to get out there if you can. We also have a ton of virtual tours on that same website, lots of videos, different things like that that you can access as well if you can't quite make it up to Tallahassee. I know this was a ton of information. This is my direct information, my direct email, and my direct phone number. So as questions come up, I'm happy to help you navigate those. Like I mentioned earlier, if there's been any disruptions because of the hurricane or anything like that, and you want to talk those things through, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you all so much. I know this was a lot of information, but I hope it was helpful. Do we have any questions?
We do. We have a couple questions earlier. You answered one of them, but one of the questions was about honors housing. Can you talk a little bit about honors housing?
Sure. So we do have an honors only residence hall. So Landis Hall, right smack in the middle of campus, is an honors only residence hall. You do not have to live there as an honors student, but only honors students can live there. So you have the option as an honors student to choose to live there.
All right, perfect. And then the next question is, how is a documented health issue that may have disrupted your GPA, how would that be considered on an application?
So if you're applying using the Common App actually has a section at the very end that asks if there's any additional information that you feel like you should know or that you'd like to share with us. I think that's a great place to put information like that. If you are not applying through Common App and you're applying directly, I always say try to kind of work that information either into your essay or even submitting an email, sending me an email with that information. I'm happy to add that to your application. I think, again, it's about painting that whole picture of everything. And so if you feel like there's an explanation that needs to happen because of a particular incident or, something that happened, please feel free to, put that wherever you feel like we'll be able to access it.
Perfect. The next question is, does legacy have an impact anymore? This person is asking because they have 4 immediate family members that are either undergrad or graduate degrees from FSU.
Yeah, so it used to be a question on our application, but it's not something that we ask anymore, and it's not going to really have any bearing on the admissions decision. I always say to include it, on the resume or kind of somewhere on there, because it helps us to see, right, that you're really interested in Florida State. But I don't think it's going to have any bearing on the admissions decision.
Definitely shows a commitment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good. Another question came up about housing. If someone is to do the summer care program and they are provided housing, how is that transition from, say, the care program to regular housing? Do they reapply? Is that something that's done in the summer during the care? How does that work?
Yep. So we'll have you, once you're admitted to the care program, we will have you do contracts for both the summer and the fall if you're interested in staying on campus for both of those. So the only headache or kind of issue with starting in the summer is that you are starting at the end of a housing contract, which means that you will move in. This applies for care. This also applies for general admission. So you live in the dorms during your summer semester, that first 6 weeks. You're going to have to move out of the residence hall and move into a new residence hall when the fall semester starts. And the reason for that is because the contracts start in the fall. So it'll be a new contract. And so what we do is we have students submit them at the same time. So once you're contracting for housing, if you're coming in the summertime, you'll do 2 contracts. You'll do a contract for the summer, and then you'll do your other contract.
Okay, great. Another one just came in. Is there an option to discuss how COVID affected your grades, or does FSU look at growth throughout the 4 years?
I think there is still, Common App used to have a COVID disruption question. I'm pretty sure it's still there this year. So I would use that. If it's not there for whatever reason, you can use that additional information piece to kind of talk about that a little bit. But yes, we do look at kind of the whole picture. We're not, again, no one thing, no, 1 year or one bad grade or things like that are going to automatically deny you admission.
All right, well, I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank you, Andrea, for being a great host to us. If anybody has any questions after, you can go ahead and email those directly to me and I can forward them on. We can get them all answered and then I can email them out to everyone at the same time instead of emailing you one question at a time. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you everyone for coming, parents as well. Thank you for being so involved. It's always nice to have parents on the calls as well.